Quick shout out from our sponsor, Sheer ID. Are you trying to boost conversions to your Shopify store? Need to drive more customer loyalty? Get results fast by offering exclusive discounts to consumer communities with Sheer ID. Sheer ID helps verify students, teachers, military, first responders, and so much more of these groups. With Sheer ID, you'll get a verified match in seconds. You can spit out an exclusive discount for customers on the spot. Try speaking directly to a new customer segment with this verifiable identity without adding friction to the shopping experience. Continue to drive incremental revenue in the next 90 days post-purchase with more tailored messaging for your email and SMS campaigns. I personally tested ShareID to see just how easy it was to get set up, and I was pretty much ready to go in under 15 minutes. The onboarding was simple enough for me to follow as a non-technical person. Go to sheerid.com/Shopify and start your free trial today. Once again, that's sheerid.com/Shopify and start your free trial today. How do you evaluate the performance of an ad besides just, oh, yep, ROAS is good, ROAS up, like green light, go, keep spending? What are some of the metrics? How do you evaluate some of this stuff?
With creative, it's all about soft metrics. And like, obviously I'm going to look at purchases and that's important. However, in terms of soft metrics, like I'm looking at thumb stops, so 3-second video views divided by impressions, how many people see the ad and stop to look at it for 3 seconds. Hold rate, basically, I'm pretty sure that's like going through, like, are we holding them to like 25% of the video and like getting them past that thumb stop? It's that first little bit where we're actually holding them.
Hello, this is E-Commerce Uncovered. I'm your host, Matt Lady. Twice a week, I speak with guests, experts, and enthusiasts to share tactical and practical information about how to grow your D2C brand profitably. Today's episode is with a media buying creative strategist and ad creative creator. She's freelance consulted for dozens, if not more, brands over the last few years, as well as supporting a very well-known, popular, awesome paid private community of the Foxhole founders. Please welcome Courtney Alexander. Courtney, why are we going to talk about ad creative today? What's the deal with ad creative?
Man, creative, number one, it looks cool. And you get to have so many levers that you get to pull. But my biggest thing with creative is that you could have the best audiences and the best targeting and the best manual bids in the whole world, but the customer only sees the creative, and that's all that they know, all that they see, and that's their first entrance into the brand. So in my opinion, it's really the most important part, because that's the front door to your entire brand. So without good creative, you're never going to convert or be profitable in ads.
Yeah, so I like that. It's the public facing thing, especially on Twitter, and us marketers were like, what's the right settings, campaign structure and strategy and bid type and all this stuff, and like that's secondary to the ad creative, the copy, the headline, all that stuff. So I'm glad you mentioned that. I share that sentiment quite well with you. So how has paid social ad creative evolved over the last few years?
That is a great question. I think one of the best things that I love about what we do is that it's always changing. And so there's no chance you're going to get stagnant, because as soon as you know that this is best practices, it's not. A good example of this is back in the day, we always had to check ad creative for if it was less than 20% text, and we had the little checker tool to make sure. And then now it's like exclusively text. And it's just like the way that people's mindset changes. And I think especially with like the growth of TikTok and Reels, and like that completely has changed the customer and the way that they intake content, to where social media really isn't social first anymore. It's really entertainment. I know we talk a lot about like infotainment and connecting with them, but like people aren't necessarily following the brands that they love on organic social media. I still think there's a place for organic social. I got started in organic social, so it's always has a near and dear place in my heart. But that's not how people are connecting with the brands that they like and care about anymore. That's why retargeting is important to previous customers. And so really how it's changed over the years is not just consumer psychology. I know that's a big keyword that we talk a lot about right now, but also just social media in general. and, you know, catching people's attention. And, you know, videos for a little while were like, it's only videos. Videos are great. And then it was like, well, wait, like photos have lower CPMs and photos can still work. And now I think the biggest thing is just differentiation, to where there's not necessarily one best layout, one best placement. It's really doing multiple different placements, because every person is so different and the way that they intake content is so different. Generations take in content so different. And so giving them that variety can really help to boost your brand and kind of get you to the next level in terms of creative.
Yeah, I think it's really great, and I need to reiterate one of your first points is how it always changes. And there's no way you could have predicted TikTok or Shorts or Reels 4 or 5 years ago. This is a whole new, well, maybe really really smart people could, but like for the most part, this is brand new. And the last few years, it just came out of nowhere. They're not teaching this in school or college yet. There's a bunch of guru courses, like there's all these people like talking about this sort of stuff, but it just changes so quickly. And so I'm glad you're here for the change. And I liked how you talked about the different formats and how different people consume content differently, and you need to kind of try it all and see kind of what works for your brand. So I think I want to follow up with, how are you kind of learning and how are you kind of keeping up to date on this stuff? Obviously, you're doing work with brands, you're actively in the trenches and involved, but since there isn't a TikTok college or Reels college or ad creative, one ad creative course, like how are you continuing to stay connected and involved and leveling up as these things change?
Yeah. I mean, even if there was a best course ever, it's going to change so quickly that it's just, there's no way to keep up. I mean, we just, not to like, you know, promote this, but like we just launched a course with Foxwell,
Yeah.
and I did a 2.5 hour segment on creative, but which I'm super pumped about. So excited. It's so good. However, we have a plan to update it every quarter, because we know that come Q2 of next year, it may have some of the same best practices, but it may not. And so I think that's really important in terms of learning. But like, to get back to the main question, man, always be testing. That's what I've always kind of like just use that as like a guiding factor in my ad buying. One of the things that I love about what I get to do is that I get to be an ad buyer, but I also get to be that creative strategist. And so for me, I get to create the creative or direct the creative or ask for what I need, or I get to really ideate and strategize that process. But then I get to place that ad and I get to see the results, and I get to pick what metrics I get to look at. And a lot of times I think that's where there's a big roadblock in creative strategists and ad buyers, is that they're not communicating, or influencers or UGC creators and all of those things, is that they don't know what they don't know. And they don't know that the thumb stop is bad. They don't know that the hold rate is bad. They don't know that people are getting bored at second 12 and then they're scrolling on. And so being able to really like bring those two together is what makes my job really fun, I think. And, you know, I get to create my own creative. So like I do creative for a lot of my own brands. I'll do some, you know, for other brands as well, but I get to know what works. And so like which is really how I got started in doing creative. I was like, okay, I'm really frustrated because I can't get what I want, and I know what I want, and it's just not working. So I was like, all right, screw that. I'm going to make it myself. And so I had my clients send me product, and I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. And so being able to like test that, I can also like edit my own creative. And so making iterations of that, I'm like, all right, this hook is really good, but I'm losing viewers, you know, in seconds 4 through 10 or whatever it may be. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to use this same hook and I'm going to do a different video. Or like for one of my brands, I sat down and filmed 30 hooks in one setting and just gave them 4 seconds or 3 seconds 30 times. And it was just completely different. And then that way, like we have a video editor. And so we got to use those hooks with different creators. And then it was a UGC mashup. And then we used those hooks with some of my content, those hooks with B-roll. And so like really being able to have that information allows you to test, because you're never going to know what does or doesn't work unless you test. because as ad buyers, I know we've all experienced this where you're like, this creative is like so good. I'm so excited about it. I spent 4 hours making this, or or I paid so much money for this, and like I'm so pumped. And the thing friggin' bombs. Like it's just not good. And you're like, I'm gonna put more money behind it. I'm gonna put it in new audiences, and like the thing is terrible. And then you'll have one. I know there's an ad buyer. Shout out to Barry, who always says make ugly ads. And I mean, I think that's just so relevant because, and I know we'll probably get into this throughout the podcast, but like people want things that resonate with them. And a lot of times, like we can hypothesize all day long with all of the information and all of the expertise that we have. But at the end of the day, humans aren't robots, and they're never going to do what you want them to do. And so sometimes the most terrible creative is what works best. And I think one of my favorite stories about this, so I got started in ad buying back in like 2016, and Foxwell was actually my ad buyer. So I was in-house and we had hired him. And so he essentially has like taught me how to do everything since back in the day. And this was like a little bit previous to like UGC really being like the buzzword, and kind of before that. And so I was working at the Grand Ole Opry, a music venue in Nashville, and we were promoting tours because you can tour the venue. You know, there's also shows, but you can tour the venue. And the best tour ad that we have was the most terribly lit, probably like an iPhone 4 photo of the stage. And it was just like the most terrible, like some like old boomer probably took it, and like, oh, it was so bad. And that ad was like granted, this was also pre iOS 14, pre all of this, and it was like at a 10x consistently. And we're just like, what? And so, but then like I would go take more pictures, and I would like, use a good camera, or I would like adjust my little lighting on my phone. And like that ad just did so well. And I think that's like the driving factor of like a cool story of people want to see what they will see in real life. People want to see a photo that they might take. People want to envision themselves as a part of the creative. And so like, obviously 2016 was such a long time ago, but like, I think that's really where consumers have been to, because there's just so much Instagram versus reality. There's so much Photoshop. There's so much editing in life. And like, that's why like brands will create like non-Photoshop campaigns, because people are just so tired of fake. And that's, I think, in my opinion, why Reels and TikTok have really come to the forefront, because it's really hard actually to edit a TikTok in a way that is super professional. Like the way that the editing features are, like, unless you're going to export it, edit it in Premiere, import it, export it, like that's just too hard. And I think the way that it works now is like people just want to see authenticity, and that's what TikTok is giving them, and that's what kind of like Instagram is morphing into. And it's all about real. And I think that's where how creative has really changed over time, is that like polished stuff, it might work maybe like product like shopping and like kind of going to like DPAs or like those types of things, but for the most part, like people just want to see what they're actually going to get. And when they receive the product, they want to be like, yep, this is exactly what I thought it was.
Yeah, that was amazing, and I have so many follow-ups and
Word
things to
vomit.
go back
Sorry.
into. No, love it. You were so excited. I was just like, I'm gonna let her roll. So I think three things. First thing is, this is all for paid social, and so it's important to remember that we're talking about one advertising channel, or this, medium. Like TV, if you try to put UGC on a TV ad and you're going after 50, 60, 70-year-old people, they're like, UGC is different. They have the testimonials, and it obviously looks like an ad, and that's what they grew up with. That's what they're so used to. That works for them. So it all kind of depends on the medium, the brand, the product, what audience you're going after. So just wanted to like add that in, because I love what you're saying. And then number two was talking about thank God I have an editor.
Thinking is hard, I know.
Yeah. Silo, make sure you edit this part. Thanks, bud. Wow. Okay, hold on. It was so good. I was thinking of question 1 and 3, and then I forgot number 2. So, yes. Okay, I got you. All right. 3, 2, 1. You're talking about the metrics that you look at. You're the media buyer and the ad creative strategist. You get to connect the dots for yourself. And you're talking about how you couldn't do that previously with some, like, in certain situations. So what you kind of alluded to it, hook and thumb stop and a drop off. What sort of metrics, like how do you evaluate the performance of an ad besides just, oh, yep, ROAS is good, ROAS up, like green light, go, keep spending. What are some of the metrics? How do you evaluate some of this stuff?
Yeah, I actually just included this in the Foxwell course, so I'm like super fresh on this. But with creative, it's all about soft metrics. And like, obviously I'm going to look at purchases and that's important. However, in terms of soft metrics, like I'm looking at thumb stops, so 3-second video views divided by impressions, how many people see the ad and stop to look at it for 3 seconds. Hold rate, basically, I'm pretty sure that's like going through, like, are we holding them to like 25% of the video and like getting them past that thumb stop? It's that first little bit where we're actually holding them, because most people aren't going to watch 95%, 100% way through. Like, no matter how good it is, they're not watching all the way through, and that's okay. So we want to make sure that we get that information and like that most important, piece that's going to tell them why they need the product in the beginning. So thumb stop, hold rate. I look at click-through rate. I look at like, even like looking into like time on site, which is actually really helpful too if you do landing page testing. And if you have a landing page that's like specific to specific creative, and that can really help you there. I mean, I'm not looking at like conversion rate for creative, because like that's more landing page. Once like creative, all creative's job is to make them interested, make them want it, and get to the website. Once they get there, like that's CRO, that's landing page, that's the rest of it. And like, obviously that's like insanely important, but that's not creative. And so, I'm looking at like total video views, even just to see like, if, and obviously like looking at impressions too, but like just seeing, even like CPMs, that tells you how interested people are. But really all of those soft metrics that are not conversions, that's important for evaluating the creative itself.
Cool. Okay, that's great. That was actually, I had to jump ahead to one of that question. I was going to get to that, but then you started talking about it. Like, this is perfect time to say it. So, and then question number 3 during that last little segment was, you have the ads running, you look at your metrics, you're reviewing those, like you talked about, hook rate, hold rate, click through, CPM, CPAs. How do you determine if it's time for an iteration on that ad, or how do you determine when it's time for, okay, scrap this altogether, new ad concept, new angle? Like, tell us a little bit more about how you kind of think about that. A quick reminder from our sponsor, ShareID. Find your next lifetime customers by providing verified discount codes based on occupation or life stage. Speak directly to veterans, students, teachers, first responders, and continue to tailor your messaging to them in the future with post-purchase emails and text messages. Make them feel seen with your brand by using ShareID to seamlessly verify their email in seconds during the purchase process. Go to shareid.com/Shopify and start your free trial today.
Yeah, this is about to get really into the nitty gritty. So if like, unless you're a nerd here, like just like scroll past this or something. I love this. I'm going to nerd out about it. So
good.
One thing that I really look at, so I love doing ads for small brands. And then I also have some really large brands. So like right now, my client range is about $8,000 a month for like my smaller clients, up to like $1 million a month, which I think is really fun just because I get to like do so many different things. And it's just like a cool thing for my mind to do. So, however, looking at those for like smaller brands, because I think that there is a big market and a big space and a big importance for those smaller brands, is I like to make sure that my creative has ideally spent at least 3 times the CPA of like the target CPA. Now, not like your ideal this would be amazing. I want a $5 CPA. No, like you're wrong. No. Whatever is like your realistic CPA, make sure that you have hit at least 3 times that. If it has no purchases, and also make sure that you're using the third party, like any third party tracking software. Otherwise, everything is modeled and like it doesn't matter. So if you have a third party tracking software, if it has 3 purchases, ideally in like a pretty quick window, if you have 3 purchases over a month, like it's probably not a good metric. But that's kind of a good range for me to be like, all right, like the hard metrics are bad and the soft metrics are bad. And obviously everything in marketing, one of my favorite things to say is it depends. Like there's no one size fits all. And if anyone says there is, like they're wrong, red flag, run away, because that's just not the case. But look at the CPA and look at the soft metrics. If both of them are terrible, turn it off. If let's say maybe like hard metrics, so purchases, conversions, if those maybe are bad or not great, but soft metrics are good, dive into the soft metrics more. Is the thumb stop good, but the hold rate's bad? Is the thumb stop bad, but like the people who are staying or are watching the hook are staying? Then that tells me, all right, change the hook, keep the hold, keep seconds 4 through 6, change that out. If I have an ad that's working really, really great and all of it's great, then make an iteration of it. Okay, so this one, I really like making different lengths of the same video. So if I have a 60-second video that's working really well, generally when I make a video at all, I'll make a 60-second-ish, a 30-second-ish, and like a 15-second-ish. And then I iterate off of them and I like test them, because sometimes people like longer videos, sometimes people like short videos. Maybe one of them will bomb. I don't know. But like more times than not, if the 60-second is working, the 7 to 15-second works even better, or the 20-second works even better. And it's kind of like getting out that fluff. So even though the 60-second may be like super, super interesting, if you can cut out like anything that is not like super impactful to convert, get them there. Like people are scrolling. People don't mind scrolling. TikTok has made them like vertical scrolling to the ends of the earth. And so people don't mind to skip it, but like you have to keep their attention as much as you can. So that's kind of how I look at it in terms of soft and hard metrics, and then making iterations off of those. And then at the end of the day, test it. Like test it. If it's not working, it's not working. And like, don't be afraid to like admit defeat and be like, but I thought that was going to be great, but like, I'm wrong. And I'm wrong all the time, but like, that's okay.
Yep. Yeah. You mentioned it earlier about, this as a media buyer, we think this ad's gonna crush. It's the best, and then it flops, and then this. I don't think this one. Like, do we have to upload this one? Okay, fine, and then it ends up working. So I understand that completely. And then I like how you mentioned. I want to follow up on the different lengths of 60, 30, 15. I think it's a really interesting way to go about it. I think that might be cool if like, this 60-second one is working, but they drop off at this point, or they get really high here, then fall off here. Like, okay, well then I could just cut out like this chunk and then like condense it down into my 30 or my 15. Or alternatively, this 15-second is doing amazing. Let's bump it up, make it longer, because maybe you have a higher price point product. You need more brand education or entertainment. And then you can test different segments to add along to like make it longer, right? So I think that's really neat how you mentioned that. And it's not always this overwhelming task of, I need 300 new ads every month. Like you probably need a few new, especially the smaller brands you mentioned. Like you need a couple ads a month, and then like adjust those variables, the segments, the hooks, all that stuff within them. Like that's what you need to do, not just throw stuff at the wall over and over again without really knowing what's going on, right? So I love how you talked about all that stuff. So how do you get like a new brand concept? How do you come up with a new ad, right? Like how do you go about getting an angle, a hook? Like how do you kind of give me a brief overview of like, I'm going to make an ad for this brand. Like, how do you do it? Like, we have brand founders, like bootstrap founders listening to this. they're either short on time, money, or skills. So like, or sometimes all of them. So how do we, I want to help people like figure out how to make ad creative. So
Yeah.
talk to me a little bit about that.
That's one of my favorite parts, is just brainstorming and like, what if, and, you know, having those conversations. And most, if not all of my clients are founders. And I love working with like small businesses and like just working directly with someone who is so passionate about it because they created the brand. And so, you know, from there, we look at like customer reviews. What are people saying? What do they like? What do they not like? Is there anything we need to overcome? And maybe that's in retargeting. If they're like, hey, it's too expensive, or like the process was really hard, or whatever. Okay, maybe that's goes to retargeting. Somebody says, this is the best gift ever for my dad. Great. Let's make some creative about gifting to your parents. But like really going through the customer research piece, that can be really helpful. Testing in terms of just like what's worked in the past, what works on organic, looking at like Facebook ad libraries of your competitors. Definitely don't like copy them, because then like that's lame. But you can take ideas from like what demographic of a creator are they using? What type of like overall like theme are they using? Is it emotional? Is it funny? Like what's working for them? Obviously in ad libraries, you can't see how something's performing. However, I usually look at how many times a creative is placed throughout the account and how long something has been running. Because if something's been running for a really long time, it's likely working. And if they have it in, 4, 5, 6+ placements, it's probably working. So that can be some good things just to like get ideas. And also like, if you're short on time, money, whatever, ugly ads work. Shoot it with your iPhone, like use it, gift it to your friends, gift it to somebody who's in the target market of your product, have them create it, have them like make an Instagram story for their friend. Like you don't have to be good at it, just be authentic. And even like founder story videos can be really good, like a selfie video of the founder being like, hey, this is why I created the product. This is what it's for. That can be really good in like a retargeting funnel. But really just like try lots of things. And even if it takes 6 months to like fully go through your testing, like throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. And like, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And that's just part of it. But like for every ad that doesn't work, I can probably find one that does. Or for every theme that doesn't work, you can probably find one that does. But like, don't be afraid to like push your own limits. Ask what if, how about, what do you think? Talk to other ad buyers. Like that's what's really awesome. And what I love about the Foxwell Founders membership is that like we have 400+ ad buyers now who we can just like run stuff by each other. And we're like, hey, like this isn't working. Here's a video that I just created. The thumbs up is great, but like everything else sucks. Or like, what would you do here? What audiences are working? And just like really being able to like take feedback. And like, that's what I love about like, for me, being a part of different size brands, but then also having access to ad buyers from literally around the world. I think we have like 30 some countries and are in the membership. And like, even though I'm moderating the membership and I help like really admin side of it, I ask questions all the time and I'm like, hey, what do you think? Like, and there's no one is ever like, man, that's like too beginner of a question. And we have so many different channels. There's a whole creative channel. Jess at Fireteam actually has done some really good analysis of creative, going through like second by second or like 3 seconds by 3 seconds. And he made a really good point a few months ago where he analyzed one of their like 60-second or maybe even like over a minute videos. And he's like, even though only 13% of the viewers stayed past a minute, like those people that made it to 75% of the video, 95% of them stayed until the very end. And so like, even looking at it from that perspective, it's really helpful to surround yourself with other people, have conversations with other ad buyers, have a coffee date with them, have a Zoom date with them. Like, just, you're not alone. Even if you're working from your home office by yourself, like you're not alone. And like, it's okay to talk to others. I know there's a ton of founder groups you can be a part of, all sorts of things. But like at the end of the day, test it, make ugly ads, make it look like real life, show the production process, show it in real life. I have a dog harness company that I work with. And like the best videos are just people walking their dog with the harness. And that's it. And like maybe in some of them we like tell them why it works or tell them how it works. But like At the end of the day, you got a big dog, you got a leash, you got a harness, and they're not pulling. Great. That's it. A 7-second video is what's worked well for them for the past 2 years, because you see a cute dog. If you're a dog owner, you're like, oh, cute dog, let me watch this. I'm already seeing cute dog videos all over my, TikTok or Reels or whatever. Cute dog. Oh, look, my dog pulls. This dog, I see a before and after. He was pulling. Now he's not. Simple. Like, people are dumb. Love people. They're dumb. Make it easy. Make it quick. Get to the point. But at the end of the day, test it.
Make it simple. That's it. Don't overcomplicate it, especially when you're just starting out. Yeah.
Don't overcomplicate it. Like, don't think that you're not good enough to make creative or to whatever. Like, grab your iPhone. 99% of the content I create is with my iPhone. The most extensive thing I've done, I bought a green screen and I film it with my phone, and then I just go edit the green screen. That's like the most expansive I've ever gotten. But like 99% of the time, like, you don't even have to have like a fancy microphone. Just like do it with your iPhone. If it's crappy, like, it might work.
Make ugly ads.
This
is a whole plug for Barry.
Shout out to Barry.
Shout out to Big Barry Hot Takes himself. Okay. That's how we iterate. That's how we make new concepts. Okay. That's great. So I want to narrow in a little bit on the one type of ad creative of UGC, and air quotes UGC. And back in the day, this was user-generated content, and that's what it technically still means. But the last couple of years, as you mentioned, short-form creators and Reels and TikTok and YouTube Shorts are on the rise. We have a bunch of UGC creators, and it's essentially paid actors and paid spokesmen, models for these brands. So how do you make sure you use the old UGC and new UGC, and what do you think about it, and then how do we make sure we use both of them properly?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing here is authenticity. I think that users can be authentic, and I think that creators can be authentic. However, I think that customers and viewers can see through authenticity now more than ever. And so, for me, when I create ads for brands, I've turned many companies down and just said, I don't really think I'm a part of this demographic. It's not really something that I would, buy anyways. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do content for you. But then there's plenty that I would buy on my own, and I actually do use in my real life. And so for me, I don't call myself an actor. I am specifically a creator for brands that I already believe in. And I think that makes my content so much better because it's so true to me, and I don't have to act. And I have done creative that is me acting, and honestly, I hate it. And I see, maybe other people don't, but I see right through it. However, talking through users and creators, the great thing about users is that it's so authentic. And I like to use a lot of actual user customer generated content. I like using that in UGC mashups can be really good because a lot of times they just don't really have the flow. There isn't really a hook necessarily. It's so authentic, but it's not really what's going to work exclusively in an ad unless you just get insanely lucky. So I like using mashups for those. And then with creators, that's where you can give them a little bit of direction and kind of give them these are some of the big talking points. These are some things that we have to overcome. However, I say that with a big caveat that don't give scripts because that's inauthentic, and it's never, in my opinion, going to, I don't say never, it depends. It very rarely is ever going to work as well as you want it to, because then that's actor generated content and something that I know it can work, and I know some brands it worked really well for them. But for me, when I see that ad, it seems so inauthentic, and I can't even count the number of ads that I've bought stuff off of when it seems authentic. It seems like something that would be, right for me. The person in it looks like me. They have a similar problem as me, whatever it is. They're in the same, whatever demographic. But all of that to say, be authentic. Find authentic creators. If you find a creator that works for you, if you find a creator that's in that target market, cool, reach out to them, send them free product. A lot of times like that does work really well, where it's like, you know, I would do this product, I would do this creative because, you know, I love it anyways, right? Or turn customers into creators. And there's like a whole line of other side of like, you can have email flows asking for content, and then, you know, you could get to where you're paying them. But I would say a good majority of the time, the content that has performed best for me has been almost exclusively authentic. Even if we gifted them the product or we paid them a small amount, the content that has done so well for me most of the time was not paid for, or was paid very little for. And, you know, influencers can be great, creators can be expensive and also great. But I always go back to, can I trust them? And sometimes it's like, I don't know this person, but like they seem like someone that I could trust, or they are saying something so interesting. But like with creators, you can give them enough direction to where they can give you exactly what you're looking for, but still get the authenticity. So for me, creator generated content, I think, is like the best of both worlds. There is a place for actor generated content and actual user customer generated content. And you can kind of mix them all together. But the beauty is when you can use it as is, they have good camera presence, they have a good voice, they're showing the product. You know, we're not like, no one wants to see my face in an ad, like just my face. No one wants to see that. But if I show my face and the product, and I'm talking about the product, and I have, you know, then they see the product, and then there's like recognition of like, I saw the product, this person's talking about it. There's some voiceover, there's some B-roll. My favorite UGC is edited UGC. So it's B-roll, it's voiceover. The frames are changing every few seconds to keep it interesting. Sometimes you'll have one that's just like a one-shot selfie that works. And sometimes those can be really, really great. And I've, you know, used plenty of those, but to keep people's attention, like change it, you know, and then like you can also try so many different edits of basically the same thing. But yeah, creator generated content, user generated content. If you're not using it, you got to test it. Like you got to at this point, and maybe someday it won't be this, but like, I just really don't foresee that in the foreseeable future, because that's what social media is right now. It's entertaining, and no one wants a $1 million produced commercial.
No, especially not on your little phone that you're looking at.
No.
That's what TV's for. That's what billboards are for. That's what, you know, these other mediums for. There's a time and place for it, right? So thanks for explaining user generated, creator generated, all those different variations of it. So you briefly mentioned and touched on influencers and creators. And so in your experience, I know I think I've seen out in the wild on my own feed or stories, or maybe you just post on Twitter, but I've seen you as like your account and running ads for certain brands, right? So like when is the right time for whitelisting, when you're kind of using the not brand account and you're using it from someone else's page or profile? Like, tell me a little bit more about that, because it's been around for a while. It used to be like really good, and then it kind of like died out. And then iOS 14, it like kind of made a surge back because people are like, oh, okay, I don't want the brand page, I want the real people. So it's kind of gone up and down. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing with branded content, white label content, it's kind of just another lever. It's kind of just another lever for scale. I don't think that it's very important, in my opinion, for like really small brands. There is a place for it, and I think that there's a good place to test it. However, it's never been, for me at least, like the end all be all, this is how my brand grew to $1 million in sales a month. But it can be a good complement. And so like it's just basically another way to horizontally scale. So just to kind of back up a little bit, vertically scaling is just increasing budgets. Horizontally scaling is having more campaigns, more ad sets, more ads, like just going wider with your net as opposed to just deeper with a higher budget. And so the biggest thing there is like, you know, if you're scaling your brand, if you're starting to see some fatigue, if you're seeing, I also really like testing creative from the brand account. And because a lot of times you have to pay for branded content or white labeled content. And so I want to know that the creative is working for them, or it's a piece of content that like they've already posted, maybe organically, that's already doing well. I very rarely want to do a branded content or white labeled content that is completely unproven, untested, unused creative, because it's going to be, in my opinion, a little bit of a waste of money. But as you're scaling, it's worth testing. And I think the biggest thing that I see with it is that it kind of gives another layer of social proof to your ads, because it's not the brand touting themselves and saying like, this is the most amazing thing, you should buy it. But it's rather someone else who's like, I really like this, I'm vouching for it. And obviously it can be a little bit different just because, they're not an actual user, they're a creator. However, there is a place for it. I've even seen white labeled content with like blog sites and, subscription boxes and things like that, where it's like, and maybe it's owned or whatever, but like, it can just be another way to have someone vouching for you. However, I will say, if you're going to use branded content or white labeled content, make sure that the brand name is somewhere in the content, ideally pretty early on. Otherwise, I've gotten a lot of ads and I'm like, I have no idea what this brand is. And a lot of times I'm not in the mindset of wanting to buy right now. I might be like laying in bed scrolling TikTok and I'm like, I don't want to get up and get my card. I don't want to buy this right now. It's an impulse buy. It's midnight, whatever. But I want to come back to it later. And so I might Google it later. I might save the ad, maybe. I might click on the brand's page. But if you're clicking on the page, it goes to the creator normally. And so I like to make a point to, like, in the first 5 seconds, have the creator say, I got this product from brand. And then there's brand recognition. That way, when you retarget them based on video views from the brand itself, they're like, oh, I already saw this product, or I saw something similar from this brand. And so like creating that recognition is important. And obviously, I mean, this is always, it depends. I'm sure you could have a great piece of content that does not mention the brand name, but 9 times out of 10, you do need that brand recognition, especially if the brand name is not on the ad itself.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I think that's a really good breakdown and explanation of that. It's not necessarily almost nothing's a magic bullet, but it's not, you're kind of saying it's complementary. It helps you kind of scale horizontally. It's not, in your experience, been like the main 80% driver of a brand's growth. It's been like that 5, 20, 10% on the side. Yeah, that makes sense. So the last thing you mentioned was 9 out of 10 times. And that brought me back to what we were talking about earlier about ad creative testing and new ads and iterations. And so sometimes when I used to work with clients before I went in-house, it's like, oh, this new ad should work. Every ad should work. And it's just like, hold on, like, not really. But what out of 10 times, like, what percentage are we looking for in terms of hit or success rate on average? Like, it's not free throws like NBA where you like, it's easy. It's 8 or 9 out of 10, right? Like I think it's more like baseball where it's like 200 or 300% is like 2 out of 3 or 2 or 3 times out of 10 is good, right? Like what do you think about that?
Yeah. Baseball for sure. You're gonna have ads that maybe don't work at all. Maybe they completely flop. Maybe they're just like, okay. And like occasionally you'll get one that just like scales to the moon. I had a brand this year that we had one ad creative that we had found from like a creator. I don't know if we had actually gifted her their product or not, but had this one video went crazy viral organically, regular. I think the original video was like 3 minutes long on TikTok. And then that's where I cut it down to 60, 30, and 15 seconds. Crazy. Scaled the brand. This ad did amazing. This happened to me once a year ago, last summer. One ad did amazing. Made iterations, made different links, just did amazing. But like, I've been doing this now since 2016. So what is that? 6 years. And I've had this happen 2 times where just one ad was like complete bonkers, like just scaled, changed the whole nature of the entire brand, which is not normal. But you can still have really good ads, and like keep in mind they're going to fatigue. This is why you have to continue doing creative testing. You can't just be like, oh, got a great ad, we're going to ride this coattail for 5 years to come. It's going to die out for sure. It might come back later. You could turn it off and turn it back on a few months later. Maybe it'll work. But you have to continue creative testing. However, going back to like our baseball analogy, that's why you test. That's why we need creative. That's why one new piece of creative a month isn't okay. For smaller brands, I might ask for like 3 to 4 new creatives a month. For bigger brands, it might be more like 5 a week. I know some really, really big brands might do like 30 a week. And for me, that's on the budgets that I'm spending. It's a lot. And it's hard to get that. It's hard to really digest that much data when you're testing that much. I kind of personally would rather like do a little bit smaller testing for like a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and then continue iterating off of that instead of like just putting everything in all at once. The way that my brain works, I want to like narrow in a little bit more. But you're going to have ads that flop. You're going to have ads that are okay. But yeah, I would say if you're batting 200, like you're doing well.
Yeah. I think that's just, I don't think we can speak about that enough of like, things are not going to work, even though that you as the founder or me as the media buyer, you as the creative strategist, we like it. It doesn't necessarily matter. It matters if the customer likes it and interacts with it and buys from it. So I think we can always say that about every day as a reminder for the rest of the time about you just need to keep testing and iterating and going, and not to expect home runs and grand slams every single ad you upload. So we're going to start landing the plane, coming down in for a landing next few minutes. We have Black Friday coming up real quick. Hopefully this one should be out pretty soon, so you might be able to still, make use of your excellent advice coming up. So how does Black Friday and Cyber Monday creative differ from, the rest of the year? So like there's this 5-day window, or brands keep extending it multiple weeks or like
Always.
a whole month or
Surprise!
whatever. Sale extended. But
oh my gosh.
So how does that time frame differ from evergreen or the rest of the year kind of ads? What do you like? Let's talk about that.
Yeah. I think, the first thing that I always think is important is leaving on some of your business as usual ads. Because sometimes those can be your best performers sometimes, because number one, they likely have a lot of social proof. They likely have a lot of like algorithmic and pixel learnings and data. And then people are just pretty like, they know there's going to be a sale. So they're more likely to click on it and they're also in a purchasing mindset. They're like, I want to buy things. I'm scrolling Instagram because I want to know what's on sale. So don't sleep on your business as usual ads. I love to leave on, my best performers from the past few months, maybe even the best performers from like that year, even evergreen stuff. Like don't sleep on those. Feel free to social proof them, take the existing post and put it into your sale ads. That's fine. You could even leave on some of your business as usual campaigns as a whole. You don't even have to create only Black Friday campaigns. Like feel free to leave those on. Another thing, like kind of going along those same lines, is learnings. So like even throughout the year, I like beg my clients to like run longer than like flash sales. So I'm like, please don't do a 24-hour sale because I'm not going to get any learnings. I'm not going to be able to optimize. Like, can we please run like a 4 to 7 day sale at a minimum? Like that would be like so great. And a lot of my clients have actually like taken that to heart, and like, we don't do flash sales anymore. We might do a surprise sale, but it's 4 days long or whatever. And so testing for sure is important. But all of that to say, know what your product is, obviously. Know if it's giftable. Are they gifting themselves or are they gifting someone else? If they are gifting someone else, like what type of content do you have? Do you have content of like, if it's a gift for my mom, do I have any videos of me handing it to my mom or my mom saying, this is so great? Or do I have a screenshot of a review saying, my daughter got this for me and I love it? Or, just like trying things like that, because you have to, like, people are dumb. I love them. Dumb. And you have to tell them what they need. You have to tell them what they want. You have to tell them why they have to get it. Because especially around Black Friday, there's so much competition and everyone wants their dollars and everyone wants their eyeballs. So how can you stand out? Is by telling them this is who this product is for. I had an ad last year actually that did super, super well. It was literally just a selfie video, one take wonder. It was me sitting on my porch and I said, Christmas is coming up. This is the best gift. I'm getting it for my mom, my dad, and my sister. This is what it is. I can't wait to give it to them. And I love it. And I didn't even say anything about the sale. I said, Christmas is coming up. This is a great gift. I had some subtitles over it, super simple, showed the product. And I ran that the whole entire holiday season. So like, yes, there's a place for Black Friday specific content. Don't sleep on graphics that just say like 30% off everywhere. Like throw it in their face. Let them know what the sale is. Best sale of the year. Like, don't be afraid to like throw it in their face. I don't love focusing on long form like UGC video where they say the sale. There is a place for it for sure, but I wouldn't like focus on that, and I wouldn't use that as like your lever for scale, because if it's Black Friday, is someone going to watch to second 7 if they're not sure what the sale is? Maybe, maybe not. Yes, there's a place for it, sure. But like communicating that really quickly is important. Actually, there's a brand that I really love their ads. And every time they run a sale, I've noticed they run the same ad. It says surprise sale as like, and that's all it says. It's like their color of their brand. It's surprise sale, surprise sale, surprise sale. And it's like, check out our sale, this is a great deal or whatever. And the sale keeps changing. And I've noticed that over the past many months. And so this ad is super social proofed, and they just turn it on when there's a sale. And it is like so intriguing to me, and I can't wait to try it out the next time I have a brand that has a sale, hopefully before Black Friday. Because surprise sale, they don't tell you what the sale is. And there's so much learning from who buys from sales, and like kind of going into like the audience side real quick. Like I'll do lookalikes of sale purchasers. Like I'll go into Klaviyo, create audiences of like sales, people who have purchased specific sales over the past year or whatever, or people who have purchased this specific sale, or people who have purchased for holiday. And that's obviously a completely different conversation. However, all of that to say, like the sale buyer and the gifting buyer is very different from your business as usual buyer. So like treat your creative as such, throw it in their face, let them know what the sale is, know what your obstacles to overcome are. Urgency is also really good. So like order by this date to get Christmas shipping. Order by this date, sale ends this date, sale extended, hurry, sale ends in 24 hours. Sometimes I'll even like schedule campaigns and ad sets for the last 24 hours on a lifetime budget, just last minute, like urgency, gotta buy it now, huge retargeting, anyone who's been interested at all, buy it right now. All of those types of things. And I would just say like, don't be afraid to test things. However, know that like you're not going to have as much testing abilities during that time window because it is such a small time frame of learning. But like use what you've learned during sales throughout the year. Use what you learned last year. Every year whenever I'm creating out my Black Friday strategy, I specifically pull up my reporting from the previous Black Friday and I use learnings, or like right after Black Friday, I always do a write-up per brand of what worked for future Courtney thanks past Courtney for telling me what happened with that brand. Hopefully I'm still with that brand a year later, to say what worked, what didn't. Obviously it's a different year. However, ideally the person who's purchasing is still the same demographic who is wanting to buy again. So like keep all of those things in mind, and then have business as usual, have static graphics, have videos, and, optimize. I'm sorry, you probably will have to eat turkey at your computer screen. You probably won't get to go to the mall on Black Friday. That's what we're doing, and that's okay. But it's all going to be worth it, especially if you can plan ahead. So like it's October, we're getting into Black Friday. Even if you're watching this or listening to this in November, like there's still time. You could film a video 3 days before your sale starts and you could still get it live on time. So like it's not too late. And, if you have the data behind it, like push it in their face. I got this gift for my dad. He's going to love it because this, and I can't wait to give it to him. Gold.
Yeah. Keep it simple. Throw it in their face. And yeah, that's this is the Super Bowl of e-commerce every year. This is the showtime, So it's a lot of brands make a ton of their revenue during this time frame. So enjoy that turkey with your triple whale dashboard and Facebook Ads Manager.
Just don't get the grease on your computer screen. You just gotta like wipe your hands off first.
Oh, no gravy, no mashed potatoes, none of that stuff on there.
No liquid, sorry.
No. We got a clear mind for the Super Bowl. So, Courtney, last thing, anything I didn't ask or anything you want to reiterate, like that's burning on your mind before we head out?
That's my favorite question in any interview. I was a journalism major in college, and like that's my favorite question of all time. You always get the best sound bites there.
That's why I ask it.
I love it. We're on the same page here. I think I would just reiterate, like, don't be afraid to test, because I think so many times you're so afraid of failing that you just are like, oh, I'm only going to use the same picture that's worked for 3 years. Like, you got to try new things. You got to try new placements. If videos work, try a photo, try a carousel, try a slideshow, try collection ads. Like, don't be afraid to test things. No matter your budget, you can still test different things. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But then like 6 months later, try it again because it might work. And it's a completely different landscape than it is. But like one thing Andrew and I have always said is ABT, always be testing. No matter what, always be testing. Whether you have a separate testing campaign, whether you're testing in your business as usual campaigns. Obviously during Black Friday, it's a little bit harder to get testing and do, actually in that small time frame. But like, don't be afraid to test. Don't be afraid to try things. Don't think that you're not capable enough to create your content. If you're a founder, get your iPhone. If you're an ad buyer, go, whatever, like shout out to Barry again. He sent us some content of a razor brand that he did. I don't think he's a creator, but he took a selfie of him shaving. Our video editor for one of my brands needed a clip. And so we sent him product and he filmed it. He's not a creator. He's a video editor. But he said, I like this. This is who I got it for. Super pumped. And so like, don't rule out anything because it could work. And then also surround yourself with people who can help you, whether that's a creative strategist, whether it's a ad buying membership, whether it's a good video editor, a friend that's like in the market. I do content for a shampoo company and hair. Great. Love it. Long hair. And like, we'll just have Zoom calls sometimes. And he's like, how's it working? What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? And kind of like product questions, but then also like, what are we needing? What are we missing in our creative? And I don't buy their ads. I just like use their shampoo. And he's like, all right, like you're in the target market. You have freakishly long hair. You're a millennial. You're in your 30s. You can actually afford a little bit more expensive shampoo than what you get at like, the pharmacy or whatever. And so like surround yourself with people who I don't even want to say are smarter than you, but just have other perspectives, because you're so many times us as marketers, humans are so siloed into our own everyday life and our jobs and everything else that like we all have blind spots. Yeah. And I need people to surround me who can help me see through those and help me improve. And that's really how I try to approach my job and approach what I do is like, always be testing for sure, but like go learn from other people because you're going to learn, I guarantee, something that you didn't know before.
ABT, always be testing, and it's hard to read the label when you're inside the jar. Courtney, it was lovely chatting and catching up with you. Where do you want to point people to talk to you, learn more, or maybe even hire you?
Oh, great. Love that. I'm on Twitter, Court F. Alexander, easy enough to spell. I have my own company, Alexander Marketing Solutions. So I think that's alexandermarketing.co. And then I also do a lot of work, as we mentioned, with Foxwell. They're great. They are very well known around the ad buying industry. We have a membership. And I also do a lot of ad buying and consulting work for Foxwell. And they are at foxwelldigital.com.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Courtney. Everyone else, thanks so much for listening. If it's your first time, hope you enjoyed it. If you're a consistent listener, thanks so much. If you haven't yet, leave that rating. Smash that subscribe button. DM me saying you enjoyed it. And catch you next episode.